There's no words. There's no words to explain. No words to explain how bad this was and having to relive this again.
Emotions running high for the family of a Glendale teen killed in a hit-and-run crash. In court today, the man who hit the teens learned his sentence.
12 News journalist Sean Rice is live outside the courthouse, and it was a packed courtroom, and you can understand what this family was going through today.
Yeah, Troy and Kribe, good evening to you both. The courtroom this morning incredibly split. On one side of the courtroom were dozens of family members of 14-year-old Julius Gonzalez, who was hit and killed in a hit-and-run crash 2 summers ago. On the other side of the courtroom were, again, over a dozen family members of the defendant in this case, 37-year-old Dallas Romanski. He's pleaded guilty to hitting and killing Julius and seriously injuring 3 other teens in this crash. The judge today had a pretty difficult decision to make. Would she sentence a man with no prior criminal history, who's pleaded guilty and has accepted responsibility for his actions, to time in an Arizona prison?
I'm just seeking for justice.
I'm only asking for justice.
All I can ask you is for justice.
Inside the walls of the Maricopa County Courthouse, justice comes in many shapes and forms for the family of 14-year-old Julius Gonzalez.
I was hoping for him to get the max.
Justice meant 8 years in prison for Dallas Romanski. Glendale police say Romanski was driving this white truck on May 25th, 2023, as Romanski was making a left turn at the intersection of 53rd Avenue and Grand. He struck a sedan driven by Julius's older brother, Julian. The crash sent their car spinning out of control, vaulting it up a palm tree, leaving extensive damage to the car and ejecting 3 teens in total.
It was very bad, knowing that he left the scene and he left my son to die in the street, in the cement, not having mercy, not being passionate, just leaving the scene.
The driver of the truck, later identified as Romanski, never returned to the scene or turned himself in after the crash. Multiple Glendale Police vehicular crimes detectives pored over security camera footage, cell phone records, and on-scene damage. In December 2024, they arrested Dallas for leaving the scene of a deadly crash. That's a charge he would later plead guilty to in court.
I would have said sorry a long time ago. I apologize to you all for not staying to help.
Against the advice of his attorney, Romanski stood up and spoke directly to the Gonzalez family and the other teens who suffered irreparable damage as a result of his actions.
I hit my head really hard on the impact and was confused. I'm really sorry. If I could turn back the time and change it all, I would have stayed and helped.
After the judge weighed victim impact statements, Romanski's limited criminal history, and his acceptance of guilt in this case, she settled on a sentence of 5 years in prison. The scars of the crash permanent on the neck of Julius's brother Julian and in the conscience of Dallas Romanski.
Even though he only got 5 years, I know mentally he's going to be in prison with the guilt of my brother's death, and I'm not happy with this outcome. I wish he got more time, but I can't do anything about it.
A mother now left with memories to remind her of her youngest son, who had dreams of becoming a professional basketball player, dreams cut short on May 25th, 2023.
Every time I want to see my son, I see an urn with ashes. That's how I see my son. That's how I remember him. He was a good kid, and I'm not saying it because he was my son. He was a good kid, lovable, always funny, making jokes, had dreams.
Sean Rice, 12 News.